What's up, y'all? Bugsy Smooth. Welcome back to another video. So, I wanted to break down this game on how to deal with miserable people. I feel as though this is very important because, guys, in this world, we are walking around and living amongst a lot of misery, a lot of miserable people, a lot of hurt people, a lot of people who are in serious pain mentally and emotionally. They're going through a lot, and instead of facing their demons and dealing with the issues they have within, they'll rather look at somebody who has a peace of mind and that's happy in their life and genuinely enjoying their life and want to take that away from them. They want to take that joy away from them. They want to steal it away and bring them back down to their level. Miserable people are weak people. Okay, they're weak because they're too cowardly to deal with their own emotions and face their demons. They don't want to do that. They want to wobble around in misery all day and take their misery out on other innocent people. But I'm gonna teach y'all how to defend that, how to have a defense against that. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all this game, and I feel as though it's very important that we have mastered this skill, because once you master this skill, once you understand this game, once you understand this science, no miserable person can ever bring you down. It's a wrap for all that. Okay, so the first thing I want to touch on, right, is if you ever read the book 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Robert Greene is one of my favorite authors. So he has a law in there, in that book. It's Law 10. So Law 10 is infection, avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Okay, so in that book, in that chapter of Law 10, it describes a it talks about miserable people, people who live in misery. Avoid the miserable people, avoid them like the plague, basically, is what it talks about in that law. And what it breaks down is a story about this woman named Lola. Now, Lola, in 1840, Lola was a dancer, and she was in France, and she was a very toxic individual, very toxic. She was very unhappy, she was unlucky, and she was infectious. She infected a lot of people with her unhappiness and her unlucky ways and her misery. Okay, so she was a dancer. She was pretty much what is today considered a gold digging thought, is what Lola was in 1840 in France, right? So she ended up dating this guy named Alexander Dujorio. I think I mispronounced his name, but it was Alexander Dujorio. Now, he was the owner of the largest French newspaper at the time. So he was a very wealthy man. So Lola, the theme in this chapter here, she consistently goes after guys who are powerful, have fame, have a lot of wealth. She goes after men of high value. What does that remind you of? A lot of women today, huh? History repeats itself. Anyway, so Lola continuously goes after men of wealth, men of high value, people who are powerful, who are happy at a peaceful, at a peaceful place in their life. So she started dating, and she ended up marrying this guy named Alexander Dujorio. And immediately, when he fell in love with her and married her, immediately, it's almost within a blink of an eye, his life started to diminish. He went to a party one night. He got drunk. He offended this one guy, and he ended up dying. Everybody Lola comes into contact with, that person ends up either dead or he ends up being ostracized from his community. Okay, so Lola got with Alexander. He ends up dying. She then got with this king of Bavaria. I think it was Bavaria. That was a place that he was the king of. And she ended up getting up with him. And he ended up falling in love with her real quick. See, Lola had that charm, that seductive charm. She knew how to make dudes fall in love quick. She knew how to take a man's soul. She knew how to make a man fall in love quick. So she had that king of Bavaria fall in love real quick. And basically what she started to do, she started to treat the citizens in messed up ways. She started to, just like how miserable people do, she started to mistreat and take out her unhappiness on innocent citizens in the area, right? So what that started to happen was people started to associate Lola with the king, okay? And eventually what happened was the citizens turned on the king and they banished him due to Lola and her misery and her infectious behavior. So basically the chapter goes on and on about that. The Law of 10 goes on about that, about Lola's ways, and that relates back to today. See, history repeats itself, and this is why I love history so much, because it repeats itself. Because today, you got people like Lola walking around everywhere. You got thousands, millions of Lolas walking around, okay? Now, I'm going to give y'all four ways to identify someone who's a miserable individual and how to deal with them, okay? So number one, whenever you're around somebody who's constantly constantly complaining all the time, consistently complaining about everything, just like talking about how life ain't fair and how, such and such isn't doing their job at work, or such and such is not, doing what they want to do, or this, just complaining about a bunch of nothing but has no method of solution. It's a miserable person, and you need to get away from that person. Okay? Get away from that person. Those women that go on social media and consistently post about how trash men are, always talking about men are trash, men are garbage, men always cheat, men always do this. A woman is always complaining about men all day. That's a miserable woman. And you need to stay away from her. Whether you a woman or a man, men, don't you sleep with that woman. Don't you date that woman. Because that woman is going to get you messed up. She's going to get you jammed up. That's the type of woman that'll yell rape. Okay, that's one of the Me Too type women that'll get you jammed up out here. Okay, that's a miserable woman, and she wants to bring her misery upon you and destroy your life. Okay, that's the sign of a miserable person, a person who complains all day. Now, number two, a person who cannot keep a solid relationship with anybody. Family members, friendships, anybody this person runs across, they end up destroying a relationship, and they're the direct reason as to why the relationship falls. Just like Lola in the 48 Laws of Power. Every situation she ends up in, she ends up destroying. Okay? So if you meet somebody who constantly always has an ex-friend or an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend, and they always claiming that it's that person's fault, and always having issues with their best friends or issues with their family members don't like them, or they probably disown them, stay away from that person. That's a miserable person. Okay? And you gonna be the next one. Whatever you talking to, don't try to help that person either. Don't be like, oh, this person had a rough time with a lot of different people in this world. Their family banished them, or their best friends just didn't see something in them that I saw. No. This person is going to make you the next victim. They're miserable, and they're going to always be trying to drag you down in their misery. All they're going to talk to you about, they're going to keep complaining, and all they're going to keep talking to you about is how people did them wrong. Which brings me to my third way to spot a miserable person. Someone who's always having a feeling of injustice. A person who always has a feeling of injustice, always complaining, always talking about how the world did them wrong, everybody did them wrong, everybody dragged them down, and they did nothing. It was all for no reason. They were always a good person, but then that person turned around and dragged them down. Okay, that kind of person right there who's always wobbling in this mess, stay away from them too. Stay away from that person too. Okay, that's a sign of a miserable person. And they will drain your energy. And last but not least, someone who's always involved in drama. A person who's consistently always trying to fight somebody, always arguing with somebody, cursing somebody out, always involved in some sort of altercation, some sort of beef with somebody. Such and such stared at me wrong. Such and such looked at me wrong. How many times you been in a club with a dude and he's in the club posted up on the wall with the mean face, with the ice grill, thousands of girls all up in the club having a good time, a bunch of dimes in there, yet he's ice grilling the dude that's across the room that ain't got nothing to do with him, just ice grilling him, looking to start a problem. How many times you been around some dude like that? A lot of dudes like that be in the hood. If you ever hang around dudes from the hood, you got that one dude that's always trying to fight somebody. You know why? Because he's miserable. He's stuck wherever he is. He don't know how to get out of it. He not trying to come up with no solution. He just wants to wobble in his misery and take it out on the next person. Okay? Them type of people end up going to jail the majority of the time. But these are the 4 things these are ways you can spot a miserable person. Now, how to deal with a miserable individual. Okay, here are the solutions, because I'm about solutions. Okay, that's what I'm about. So I'm going to give y'all these solutions, okay? Now, a miserable person, as I told you, is a person who's in pain. Okay? Always remember that. Keep in mind that a miserable person is someone who's going through their own personal hell and living in it every day. Every day this person wakes up, they are miserable, they are going through hell. So the reason why they treat people a certain way, a negative way, an evil way, the reason why they do evil things is because they are living in their own personal hell and they're unleashing that hell onto somebody. It is a direct reflection of how they're feeling inside. Anybody who ever just looks by you and doesn't smile, look down, not look down, but just like doesn't ever have a smile on their face, always angry at the world, it's because they're going through hell. And how you deal with somebody like that is you have a support system. Let's say you got love at home, you got a support system, you got a strong confidence about yourself. This is your castle. This is your bubble right here. You got a strong base, a strong foundation. You have a strong wall around this castle right here. And you constantly have people who are trying to attack this castle. But your castle is so well built. You have such a strong foundation, nobody can break in. Nobody can break in there because your support system is strong. Nobody can penetrate it. So what do you do when you have such a strong system and you got people outside trying to break in, but you know that they can't get in? You ignore them. You ignore it. It means nothing to you. You in your castle living it up. You eating grapes, sipping on wine. People outside trying to get in. You know the hell they can't get in. No way in hell they can get in, right? You know they can't. And you comfortable in that? You ignore them. Eventually, you know what the miserable person does? Eventually, the miserable person gets tired and says, this person right here is never going to budge. It's never going to budge. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this person alone. And they go ahead and attack somebody else. Miserable people get turned on and absolutely love when somebody reacts to their negative behavior. If you give their negative behavior satisfaction, they get joy from it. It makes their day. The fact that they ruined your day makes their day. That's what makes them happy inside. They're so low that making somebody be low is what gets them high. Just think about how sick that is. And miserable people usually turn into narcissists. But we're just focusing on misery right now. So what else was I going to say? I lost my train of thought, but that's just how you deal with miserable people. Okay, miserable people, they love company. When you got your castle, your strong support system is your confidence, your happiness, your understanding that you got a love, you got a family at home that love you, you got people who genuinely care about you, you got solid relationships. You know how to treat people accordingly. You know how to treat people right. Anytime somebody gives you an opportunity, you tell them, thank you, I appreciate it. You always appreciate the moment. You are grateful. A miserable person cannot attack that, cannot take that away. If you ignore them And in order to do this, you got to be able to master your emotions too. You got to be able to master your emotions. If you master your emotions, you can deal with a person who's miserable. You can avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Okay? So that's how you deal with miserable people. You ignore them, and you continue to build yourself up, build your foundation. Well, you already have a strong foundation. You expound on that. You expound on that. Okay? You continue self-improving yourself. You hit the gym, work out. You know, the more you work out and get fit, the more happy you just naturally become, because you feel productive. You feel like you're doing something. You know what I mean? You go to the gym in the morning, you work out, you go to work, you feel productive for the rest of the day. Okay? You eating right, you eating healthy. You know, you got good friends around you, got good people around you. A happy person gets infected with happiness. Happy people start to surround themselves around a happy person because they see this person's happy, they want to be around that because they're happy people too. See, if you are in a relationship with some person who is miserable, do you know what attracted that misery? What attracted that misery was this person saw that, hey, man, you know, I'll give you a better example. Look at women's friend groups. If you got a friend group that always talks about how trash men are, notice that when you're around a female group of friends like that always talk about relationships and how garbage men are, and notice that they're all single. You know, the minute one of them girls gets into a relationship, that girl ends up falling out with that friend group. Y'all ever notice that? That right there shows you that that woman's no longer miserable anymore, so they feel no use for her. Misery loves company. Okay, and that woman is not in their company no more, so they got rid of her. They don't need her no more. They're like, okay, all right, she done extended up beyond us. She's happy now. We don't like that. So they start to talk trash about her. She becomes the garbage crew that they talk about. Oh, she's trash. Okay, so that's my video on miserable people and how to deal with them. You ignore them. You stay away from them. And if they try to attack you and insult you, you laugh at them and you say, hey, I wish you the best on healing your pain, and may God bless you. Okay? So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, comment in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, and I hope this helped you. I hope there's somebody who's watching this that really needed this. I hope it helps you, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll holler at y'all in the next video. Peace.